It is now 1:30. We will go ahead and call to order. The notice of this meeting was posted on December 13th, 2023. This is the Oklahoma County Planning Commission, room 204, and it is 1:30. Roll call, Eric?
Yes, the members of the Planning Commission are Rob Murray, Greg Davidson,
Here.
Rob Talbot,
Here.
Charles DeFuria,
Here.
Denise Patterson,
Here.
and Commissioner Miles Davidson.
We have a quorum. Item number 4, approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Everybody has a copy of the minutes. Can I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Second. Roll call?
Mr. Murray.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. DeFuria.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson.
Item number 5, discussion and possible action to approve/deny a zoning change from Planned Unit Development PUD 2022-06 to R2 Rural Residential Z 2023-09. Report, Eric?
Yeah, so this is a piece of property that went through a couple of attempts to have it rezoned for a single-family subdivision. Originally, it was done through straight zoning, and then they came back with the PUD. Later on, it ended up being a 70-lot single-family subdivision. A new owner has now acquired the property, and they wanted to take it back to its original zoning, which is R2. That's what we're here to do today. So the new property owner is here if you have any questions of him. But besides that, he's just taking it back to the original zoning, which it started.
And obviously, there's no time restrictions from one to the other.
No.
Anybody have questions for Eric? Sir, anybody here would like to talk in favor of this project? State your name and address, please.
Sure, Benjamin Russ. I live in Villaggio up in Deer Creek area, 21581. I own the property. I bought it when it didn't close for the developer. So I've talked to Mr. Ashley, actually, who's back here. I was visiting with him a minute ago. And I've also spoken to the Ward family, so everybody's excited that it's going back to Rule 2, if y'all approve it. When we'll just build a house and residence on it, and basically it'll be in line with everybody else in that section.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Anybody here to talk against this proposal? Hearing and seeing none, I will take a motion to approve/deny item number 5.
I move to approve item 5.
I'll second.
Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. DeFuria,
Aye.
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson.
Motion approved. Item number 6, discussion and possible action to approve/deny a zoning change from CG Commercial General to Planned Unit Development PUD 2023-07. Report, Eric?
So this is the piece of property here. It's on Portland, just south of Northwest 206, about a half a mile. Property itself was rezoned to commercial general back in 2001, and it's been sitting vacant since that time. What they're wanting to do is do a PUD now, which would include all the uses that are part of the CG commercial general designation, but they also wanted to add a few designations. And if you go a couple slides for me, one more. Okay. So these are just the other uses they're wanting to do is fireworks sales, retail. That would be your typical fireworks stands that you see in July and towards the end of December if somebody wanted to sell fireworks for the new year. Fireworks sale wholesale is kind of similar to the wholesale facility that we have on Northeast 36th and I-35. You're familiar with that, where they have all year round. They also sell wholesale to the public. The other two uses they're wanting to do is industrial moderate, which is pretty wide open if you look at that definition there, and industrial heavy. So those are the other two uses they wanted to add in the PUD. The one use that they're getting rid of altogether is adult entertainment. A couple other things that I wanted to point out in regards to the PUD that is a little bit different than what our regulation allows is the sign portion. In our regulation now, billboard signs, which we call them in the new regulation off-premises signs, we don't allow those anywhere in Oklahoma County. That's something that we added to this regulation, but that was also in the previous regulation as well. That's something that they want to allow on this particular piece of property is billboard signs. Obviously, that makes sense. You're along Portland there. You see a lot of those type of signs. What's different in this particular case is this is along a ODOT facility. So not only if it's something that the planning commission wanted to approve, they would also have to go through ODOT to get approval for the placement of the billboard whenever that time comes. One other thing that they've added into the PUD is the electronic message display. So a lot of these signs today are electronic, they have LED, they go between different types of ads. In our regulation as it stands today, when this sign is going to be put in place, they would have to go to the Board of Adjustment to allow for that type of sign. So it's not something that we normally give outright permission to do. It's something that has to go through an additional step of oversight to the Board of Adjustment. So I wanted to bring those items to your attention as it's something that is different from our regulation and what we allow. So if you had any questions, I did want to go back to the next slide, just to kind of give you an idea of the overall activity that's out there now. There's some industrial activity that's directly north. It's in the form of a storage, personal storage, but they also have outside storage of RVs and boats. And if you come back to the south, at least on the east side of Portland, that is actually in the city of Oklahoma City. On the west side, all of that is zoned industrial there, that 160 acres that's at the intersection of Portland and 192nd. And I'm sure many of you are familiar, especially the folks that live out in Deer Creek, are familiar with the gas station that's there on the corner itself. So just kind of give you an idea of what's there in the area. That's all the information I had, unless you had any particular questions.
So to clarify, the it would actually be a billboard and a sign? It would be two separate structures?
So it's a billboard is what they're asking for. So a billboard typically advertises some activity that's not taking place on the premises itself. So the typical signs that you'll see on commercial and industrial type of properties are accessory, which have to do with the property itself and the activity they're conducting. We also classify this as non-accessory, so it's advertising something that's not on the property itself. Billboards in our new regulations, what we call off premises. So that's what they're asking for, different than what our regulation allows. Our regulation currently does not allow off premises or billboard signs whatsoever anywhere in unincorporated Oklahoma County.
And then that billboard would be electronic, or the electronic is a different thing.
So the electronic is a different thing. They can put up a typical billboard sign. Let's say it's just a static, just paper sign, advertising, whatever. That's allowed. But once you start doing electronic message display where you're changing and you have lighting on there that changes that display, it has to go to the Board of Adjustment for their approval to allow that type of sign. That's something that's stated in the regulation currently.
And whether we approve or deny it, they could still have to go to the Board of Adjustment for that.
Right, that's right. I just want to make sure that that's clear because in the PUD statement, which I have a copy of it here, I don't know if anybody needs a copy to look at. That's one of the things that's stated in the PUD statement itself. And I'll let the applicant, I made them aware of that, so they may want to address that, and I'll let them address that.
So it's a total of one sign.
correct?
Correct. Now let me just clarify that. It's one billboard. Now, if they want to put a sign for a business that they're conducting on the property, there'll be other signage related to what they're doing.
But the electronic sign will be attached to the billboard.
Right, that's right.
Just real quick, is there a permitting process for this? Does Oklahoma County have a permitting fee for this? I know ODOT does, and they also have a process that, and regulations.
Yes, we do have a sign permit. So it's based on the square footage of the sign. The face of the sign itself is how we charge for it.
And then ours line up with ODOT, or are you?
They're completely separate. I'm not even familiar with their application. Like I said, this would be the first one that we've permitted. There's one other one that is allowed in the southeast part of the county with the new turnpike. That was something that was written into a PED similar to this. And it was allowed at that time, but it has not come to be. All the other ones that are currently in place, as an example, along I-35 and Waterloo Road, are signs that are grandfathered in. They're not signs that we've ever permitted.
Any other questions for Eric? Is there anybody here who'd like to talk in favor of this project? Name and address, please.
Good afternoon, Caitlin Turner, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. So yes, this is a PUD to essentially keep the base zoning and add in the uses that Mr. Brandt had referenced. We would also permit a billboard, which again, unless we went through Board of Adjustment, which we are all aware that we would have to go seek other entitlements in order to have that electronic board. That's the only way that would be permissible. We will certainly be working with ODOT and county regulations to seek all of those permits that are going to be necessary and required for this location. But given its location on South Highway 74, there's not a lot of sign clutter in this area, which is beneficial. It's something that ODOT's going to require. They require a spacing limit between signage and things of that nature. We thought it was a good area for it. I personally am very familiar with this area. I used to live just east, 3201 Northwest 206th Street. So I was like a mile up the road, very familiar with this area. It is predominantly industrial, especially as you can see the south, which is just zoned that, but then the north with the personal storage and the commercial center. But we would essentially be expanding that kind of development with some flex space and things like that. But if you all have any other questions about signage or other, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Just real quick, what
Yeah.
school district is that right there?
Deer Creek.
So we're actually increasing the bonding capacity in ad valorem that would actually be pumped into without expanding the amount of students going into the school. So
Correct. And that was one thing that was considered on this site, but ended up going the commercial path and staying on track with that for that reason, to not overcrowd and cause those issues. So that is correct.
Is there any other planned signage? Like the question he was asking.
Right. Not at the moment. There's no end user in mind at the moment. Attached signage is probably going to be the typical identification signage is what you would see other than having a billboard on the property. So it'd be smaller scale and we would be meeting or exceeding all of the county regulations for those types of signs.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here who would like to talk against this project? Hearing and seeing none, I'll accept or entertain a motion to, approve/deny item number 6.
I think these are the types of projects that need to be happening in Deer Creek to assist the schools with their overcrowding. So I'll gladly make a motion to approve this particular PUD.
And I'll second it. Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. DeFuria,
Aye.
Ms. Patterson, Commissioner Davidson.
Yes. Motion approved. Item number 7, discussion and possible action to approve/deny a zoning change from R2 rural residential to I industrial Z 2023-08. Eric, report?
Yes, one sec.
We're going for a record, Eric. Come on, hurry up.
So yes, this particular piece of property is off of Southeast 29th and east of Henny Road. It's adjacent to a neighborhood road called Hardin Drive. What the property owner or potential property owner in this particular case wants to do is rezone this to industrial for outside storage. Essentially, what he's wanting to do is landscaping materials, rocks, decorative rocks, uh, maybe some plants, that sort of thing. No, just rocks only. Okay. So rocks, decorative rocks, that sort of thing. We don't allow outside storage in commercially zoned property. That's why he's asking for the industrial type of zoning. You can see back west of this particular piece of property, there is some industrial zone property. Actually, there was one that was approved here a couple of years ago that they're building a storage facility on currently. As you go south of this particular piece of property, you get back in the city of Oklahoma City. All of that property there, from what I could tell, is all R1 and AA. And then as you go back to the west, you get back into Midwest City once you get west of Henny Road there. And then as you go further east towards Choctaw Road, you get into Choctaw itself. As you can see, that's kind of a pocket there of unincorporated Oklahoma County, and you have Oklahoma City, Choctaw, and Midwest City that kind of abuts all this property in different directions. As far as permitting goes, he would have to follow all the regulations as we move forward with permitting of an office. This is kind of similar. I don't know if you're familiar with the project that was on I-35 and Waterloo Road. It was called Edmond Rock and Landscape, kind of a similar deal. They're no longer in business, but it's a similar deal where people would be able to come to the property, look at the inventory that it has, be able to acquire whatever they want at that point in time. Just to kind of give you one other note in this particular area, the property that's directly west of his is actually zoned R2, which is rural residential, but there is a bar there that is on site as well. It was something that's been grandfathered in for quite some time. It's called Midway Bar. Been there as long as I can tell. So that's just kind of a breakdown of what's in the area and what he's wanting to do on the property. I do have one letter of protest that was sent in here just within the last day or so. I just want to give you guys an opportunity. It is the property owner that is directly east of the property in the subdivision called Forest Oaks. He butts up against this particular piece of property. And so it does, with his protest, it does make it a significant protest as far as the Board of County Commissioners when it gets to them. They would have to vote unanimously whenever that time comes to approve this. But let me hand out this so you have an opportunity to look at it. The applicant has had an opportunity to look at this before the meeting itself.
Do you know the name?
Do we need to make a motion to receive that letter? Can I get a motion to receive the protest letter, please?
Motion to receive the protest letter.
Second, yeah, roll call.
Mr. Murray, Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. DeFuria,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson, Commissioner Davidson.
So while does anybody have any questions for Eric?
Yeah, I do.
Sure.
Can he do what he wants with it zone commercial instead of industrial?
No, it's the outside storage component that changes that. So when you have something stored outside of a building, you have to zone it industrial. That's something that's been fairly consistent across our regulations since 1991. I mean, you could always do a PUD as an example to where you have all commercial to where you could have outside storage that way.
So if it's industrial, can you manufacture?
Yes, whatever's in industrial zoning, once you turn it to industrial, it stays that way until some future property owner decides otherwise. But yes, whatever use is allowed or permitted outright in industrial, from that day forward, if it's approved, they can choose to do whatever they feel like, as long as it's permitted outright.
So if he sold it to somebody else, they could come in and do anything industrial in it without
Right.
permission?
That's right.
So what page is the industrial on?
Uh,
Okay.
So in the new regulation, it's a little bit complicated to kind of go through that. But if you're just looking for the industrial zoning itself, that starts on page 19. Now, if you're looking for all the uses, which I assume that's what you're looking
Yeah, right.
for, you're gonna have to go to page 23, is land use chart. And on the far right-hand side of that page where it says industrial, you'll come down there, anywhere you see a P, that is permitted outright. Now, if you see a P and a number, there are some other restrictions that have to be met to do that. So you can take a look at those on page 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and that's it.
Just real quick, Eric, what's the intended use?
Outside storage landscaping materials.
Okay. Have we asked about a PUD? Are you the property owner?
He's the property owner. Well, he's the potential property owner.
Potential
He hasn't bought it from.
Is
from
there
the-
is there a reason that we're seeking industrial versus just doing a PUD and doing a landscaping business similar to the way that we did the Coffee Creek property on the corner? There you go.
We made that an option. It's really up to him, so you'd have to ask him that question, but it's really up to the property owner to either do industrial or
Is that-
PUD.
Something. Okay, so it's a planned use development. Basically what you're doing is yeah,
Can we have him come up,
Yeah,
give his name
absolutely.
and address?
absolutely.
I got another question for Eric before you sit
Okay.
down. Could you just tell me if like adult entertainment is part of the industrial?
So if you have your staff report there, I tried to list those all out in the staff report, but I could tell you here.
Because I know
I
where
think
that Midway
that's-
bar is. I used to pass by it all the time.
I was gonna say right across the street's the Midway Bar. Yeah,
Right,
So, yeah.
so that was something that was never zoned.
yeah.
That was something that was grandfathered in. So they're not really zoned anything in particular, but.
They've been there since about 68 or 69.
Right, it's been there for quite some time.
But
Yeah,
Adult
so
entertainment.
adult entertainment is not allowed
in industrial.
in industrial.
Okay, all right. I was just wondering, since there's a bar right there.
That's enough. That's enough adult entertainment in the area.
Yeah, and an entertainment center, right. Okay, any other questions for Eric? All right.
Yes, please.
With that said, is there anybody here who would like to talk in favor of this project? If you would state your name and address, please, sir.
My name's Benjamin Skelly, 13300 Southeast 119, right here in Oklahoma City. I'm the potential buyer. I have two businesses. One of them's excavation. It's called Shamrock Dirt Work. And the other I started a couple of years ago called OKC Boulders. It was open to the public, but since it's just me, I'm changing my business model. I just need an area to store material that supplies my excavation business. So I'm not going to be open to the public. Looked at, and I'm paying cash for this, and I understand the concern of what it could be done in the future. So since I'm paying cash, my overhead's very minimal. I have zero. My desire is to do specifically what I need, just to store materials and stuff. In the future, maybe put up a commercial structure for my equipment, maintenance, stuff like that. But as far as, noise, stuff like that, I'm not processing. And I understand the big concern is future. If I sell it, somebody can do whatever they want. If it helps, it's going to be all debt free. So even if I go out of business, anyways. So that's my biggest thing is I just need an area to stockpile material. When I say stockpile, I know the regulations are, can't be over 6 foot tall. It's heavily wooded on the east side. I plan on leaving at least 90% of all these trees. I have no desire to take these trees down. The open area that exists right now is more than enough room. I've spoken to several people in the area, and because there is some economic activity going on with industrial outside storage, it's like this little pocket of, it's unincorporated land. So as far as me being there, I'm very rarely gonna be there. My current location is on Anderson Road, 1940, and it's just an area where I stockpile material, and I'll put the privacy fence up, do whatever permits or regulation you need, but I'm a very secluded person, so.
So all those things that you just listed
Mhm.
are exactly what we would list in what's called a PUD, which is a planned use development.
Okay.
What all it does is line out exactly what you are going to use the property for and what you can use the property for. And really what it is to protect not only you, but to protect the other landowners in the county as you're going through that process. Because if we just wholesalely make it industrial, I don't know, some lithium ion battery manufacturer wants to plant right there and make everybody glow in the dark, they can do so. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to keep you from using this as a business. We encourage those types of things. We just want to be able to outline and let everybody feel comfortable about exactly what it is that you're doing.
Sure, and I appreciate that, and I'm open. Like I said, going through this process, I wasn't sure what to do.
Yeah,
And when I was looking at the list, well, that's what I want to do, and only industrial would allow it.
Yeah.
I even asked about getting a special use permit for commercial. Even that was like, no, just do industrial. And like I said, I'm not educated on the PUD aspect of it. How long does that take? You know, how much is that going to cost? You know.
Those are great questions.
Well, typically a PUD statement is, if he's not familiar with the process, obviously you're gonna have to hire either an attorney or an engineer to formulate that for you. I mean, we have examples that we can provide, sure. But at the end of the day, if there's something in particular he wants to do on there, we normally don't guide them down the path as far as writing it for him. I think that was the discussion that we had initially. It was just having those concerns because he wasn't familiar with that, was kind of the pointing in this direction with the industrial. A cost associated with it, I have no idea, because
Well,
we
what's your
don't.
permitting? Is there a special permit cost or anything of the sort that's different than what he's already paid?
Well, if you wanted to go that direction, what you're running into is denying this application, then starting this process over. So it just depends on what you want to do. If everybody's leaning towards denying this particular application, probably the best thing to do would have him withdraw this. That way he could start the process over immediately without putting a 90-day timeline in which he could not apply.
Right.
If that's the direction you're wanting to go. But in regards to our costs, he's already paid for this, which I'd have to go back and look. This was $456. Typically with a PUD, you're looking at more of a cost because there's more staff time going over the particular statement itself to determine what you're wanting to do there. So there is more of a cost doing a PUD.
Eric, okay, why does he have to hire a lawyer? I mean,
Well, if
you're
he's
saying
not,
hire
if he's,
a lawyer, why?
if he's not familiar with writing this type of
Yeah, but
document,
can't the planning commission just say, here's an example, and just, you know, you want to
Sure.
store some material, it's not complicated.
sure, if he's comfortable with that, that's no problem. I don't know what his comfort level
I don't
is
like
with
the
that.
idea of hiring a lawyer.
Well, I'm just saying that's
Okay.
most of the time that's what you deal with. As an example, the previous PUD, that was for a law firm that deals with land use issues. So they wrote that particular document. I don't want to speak to his comfort level, but if he's comfortable doing
Sounds
that,
pretty simple what he's asking.
sure. If he wants to write that, absolutely. We don't care.
Okay.
That's
So-
all based on his comfort level.
Okay. So Eric, if he withdraws, there's not a waiting period?
Right. The only waiting period that he's going to incur is getting on the next agenda. But again, we start this process over, so he's having to pay a new fee. If he's wanting to do a PUD, there's additional costs. We have to notify all the property owners again and all that. So he's essentially starting over.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. So he paid $450.
456, yes.
$456. Can he apply, if he withdraws, can he apply it towards a PUD?
No. Because we've already incurred all that cost with these mail outs and putting into the paper.
Oh,
And you're gonna incur it again.
That's right. So
So-
we don't make any money off of these. This is essentially our cost to do this process.
But we also have another option where we can defer this a month, give him the opportunity to think about it, and then he can make his decision to withdraw during that
Sure.
period and then start
Abs-
he doesn't have to make the decision today, right here and right now.
Absolutely. But if he wants to defer and he agrees to that, you guys need to make sure you specify which meeting we're deferring to. So if we're just deferring to the January meeting, if that's January the 19th, I think.
And then
We
that'll
just need to
give,
specify
and that'll
that.
give him the opportunity to call you, talk to you, go through the whole process, and then he can see, if I do this, it costs this, if I do this, it costs this. And then he can make a decision and he's not making it off the cuff.
Absolutely.
Lisa, you're searching as fast as you possibly can, probably to answer a question I'm about to fire at you. Zoning it industrial, is there a way to ensure that we don't just do a blanket?
What I was looking for is to see if you could zone it industrial with restrictions, kind of
Yeah.
like industrial asterisk where
Yeah.
like you would do an exception use.
Yep.
Do it in the reverse where you can register this as industrial as the application says, but restrict the industrial uses. And I'm looking for authority for you to be able to do that.
Okay.
They would attach,
No.
I can,
Right now.
I can speak to previous is that was severely frowned upon. And,
Gretchen's done it.
well, that is true. So that's going to be up to them. But before, that was something that was attempted several times and we were browbeaten not to do that. So
Sounds to me like it's possible, it just wasn't liked. So
maybe
we're gonna let
that's
Lisa do
beyond my
her-
pay grade.
We're gonna let Lisa do her thing for a second.
It might take me more than.
Well, but same
They-
scenario, if we defer for a month, that would give Lisa time
Sure.
to do the research. So
Absolutely.
that may give him a third option at that point.
would the restrictions attach to the deed?
Well, it would be, whatever this board passes, the restriction, whatever you would pass would have the restriction in it, so it would follow the property.
So the way
It'd
we,
be in the abstract or something.
Right.
well, no, the way that we've done it in the past is if you want to apply restrictions, so let's say we restrict everything besides what he's wanting to do, we would put that on the resolution. He would get a copy of that resolution once it's approved by the Board of County Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners, through the clerk's office, has a copy of that as well. So everybody's on the same page as what's allowed.
Then it's attached to the title and follows.
Well, that goes beyond us, so, right,
Yes.
right. That's
That sounds
on
like a
them, but,
pain.
Yeah.
right, I can only control what we control, which is the resolution itself. Make sure everybody gets a copy, make sure that it's in the file itself, so everybody knows what's allowed.
Mr. Skelly, thanks for bearing with us. We've had a kind of a turnover up here and a turnover amongst our brilliant legal minds, and there's a lot of things that we're working through. What is your preference at this point, knowing what you know?
Well, I know the property was previously under contract with Dollar General. They strung him along for 8 months and then they walked away. They've been very patient. again, some of the uncertainties is how long does this stuff take?
Yep.
Me as a private business owner, I'd rather just cut bait from this, move on, find something else if this is gonna be, I really like this location. It's right down the street from Tasty Burger.
Good
If you
tater
know where
tots,
that
by
is.
the way.
They've
But
got good burgers in it.
the 29th, you know, my kids go to Middale, so it all works good. I really like this property. But if it's one of those things where it's gonna string along the seller for several more months, you know, because right now I'm paying a lease at land that I'm really not doing anything, because I'm not bringing in any more material until I know if I'm getting this or not.
That's it
And-
right there.
And
Oh,
it for me, it is time is money. It's,
Yep.
I can only, you know, that's why I want to pay cash for this, so I can be out of, you know. So I don't know, and it,
So
and
do we know if are we on target to have a meeting in January? Okay, so and we wouldn't want to tell them that we're going to defer it and then find out we weren't going to have a meeting because nothing was filed. So we know basically what we're saying here, to somewhat clarify, if we defer this, we're only going to defer it to the next meeting, which is approximately 30 days. A decision will be made at that time. Then it's going to go to the Board of County Commissioners, which is a week, 2 weeks after that. So at most, you're looking at even if we approved it here today, you still have to wait a couple till your next meeting.
35 days.
Yeah, so we're
Just
gonna.
quick math, 35 days.
35 days. So that's the delay you would be looking at, but that would give you the opportunity to work with Eric and give the DA time to look at it, so we make the right decision for you, so it goes easier for you going forward as well.
And we want business owners like yourself in an incorporated area.
sure.
Absolutely. I mean,
Right.
it's-
Well, and another thing is if we wanted to say, okay, it's industrial with said restrictions, you know, is that like, well, I can pick this, because just outside storage, does that mean I could put up a structure for like my office and, you know, or let's say I wanted to subdivide it a little bit and somebody who's an attorney or a realtor could rent out a small space to help compensate me for.
But that would, again, be a great conversation to
Yeah.
have with Eric in the county when you're going over your options, because depending on which direction you go, it's going to give you latitude to do certain things. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I think it would be in your best interest to have that meeting, put it off for 30 days and figure out, because right now, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, but right now it's a hard decision because if we approve it, we're giving you a blank check for that property to go on in perpetuity, and that is never an easy decision to make.
And I understand the concern of people to the east, you know, anyone. I mean, trying to be conscientious of my neighbors. How would I feel if
Right.
somebody came in and I understand your concern with like, well, you could process lithium batteries. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. And unfortunately, the only category that allows me to do what I want is that industrial. So,
Well,
That's-
if you came to Eric and said, exclude everything that's industrial except, and then you say like your, whatever, your storage, and if you,
mhm,
like I don't know, like a storage building or
mhm,
whatever.
mhm.
So just exclude everything except the things that you want to do right now or possibly in the future that would be considerate of your neighbor, your adjacent.
Yes. It's almost like we need to have like a flex zone thing, you know.
Well, we
And
try-
that way you don't have to spend a lot of money because
Yeah.
you've already paid the $456. And you're not gonna have to,
Now I will have to, because I do have a signed contract, so we'll have to renegotiate the closing date, because the closing date's January 18th. And so we'll have to adjust that. So what, you're saying 35 days from today, if, I'm open to this idea.
Yeah, it's about, don't quote me on it, but, so today's the 21st, so 10 more days. Next meeting here would be the 18th, but there's your 28th, 7 on top of 28 is gonna be 35. So just back of the envelope math as best I can. it's gonna be 35 days. Now, I would tell you that pushing back a closing date's pretty common and especially
Sure,
right
sure,
now
yeah.
in real estate
Wh-
world. Just real quick, one question though. I grew up in this area and I'm kind of curious. How are you entering this property? Are you entering it off of 29th or are you in?
It's off
Off
of
of
Hardin.
Hardin.
Well, there's nothing, right? It's just a blank canvas, but there's on the west side off of Hardin.
Okay.
I have no desire to be on 29th.
Yeah, okay.
It drops off. So my egress and everything would be on the west side on
Okay.
Hardin.
That's great.
Now, I would request a Southeast 29th address number because Hardin, I don't want to spell that over and over. Southeast 29th it's an easy number, you know. I think
now
Ms.
that's an
Marquita said
extra
just,
$456 permit just for that request. So.
I will pay $1,000 to get us just an easy numerical.
We're trying to help you out here.
Yeah. So you're open to the idea of us deferring this for a month?
Yes, if what you said is possible, industrial with restrictions, and I can pick.
You're gonna
Like I
know
said,
one way or the other
We're
within
gonna,
35 days.
she needs a little time to do that, and we can't do that in the next 5 minutes, so all we're gonna say is she's going to research it and find out if that is truly a possibility for you, and if it isn't, then you still have the PUD possibility, and you also still have the possibility of proceeding as is and hoping that we would approve it.
Right, and you'll find all of that information out within the 35 days.
Mhm.
So within that 35 days, if she comes back and says we're not able to do it that way with the industrial, you'll be able to shift gears, withdraw, and submit a PUD all within that same time span. Does that make sense?
And that would
There's a
all be,
lot of, it's.
that would all take place
Follow
on
the ball.
the January 18th. And
I
I
will
have
get-
that,
I will get the research done quicker than that and get
Okay.
that to Eric as quick as possible to
Yeah.
give you as much time as possible.
you know, and because I'm not familiar with a PUD, I would probably just say, can we just do an up or down vote on the industrial? Because
If that's what you want.
it's, but I will do more research in the meantime. It might turn out, hey, this is great, you know?
Yeah, I would tell you to look into the
Yeah.
PUD because all it does is help.
Sure.
It keeps the neighbors off of you
Sure.
and
He probably can't do the PUD by 35 days, can he, Eric? If he wanted to.
So if that's the direction he wants to go, like I said, we'd have to start this process over.
Yeah.
So
Let's make
I
sure
can
he's
give him a
aware.
copy here and right now.
Oh,
You
so
can
you
have,
would
you can
to
have that
do-
copy right there just to kind of get as a go by.
I just want to make sure he knew he couldn't have that within 35 days.
Right, so essentially what we're saying is that it sounds like he wants to defer, and you have to vote on that. So the next meeting is January 19th, is that correct? 18th? I just want to,
Don't add a date of my 35.
okay. So if that's what we move forward with, we're deferring to January 18th. So basically, at that point in time, I will have some information from the DA to where I can send that to him. He'll have all that information, so when we reconvene on the 18th, he can make a decision if he wants to withdraw to do the PUD at that point in time, or he wants to move forward with the vote as the industrial stands today. And then we can proceed from there on whatever he decides.
Right. Well, if Mr. Skelly's good with that, then
So if you vote and it gets unapproved for the industrial, is there a waiting period to try to do the PUD?
90 days.
Right, so if right, it's 90 days from the date, it has to go to the Board of County Commissioners. So from whatever day it gets to them, which may be the 2nd or the 10th of January, depending on review times, but let's just say it's the 10th, just for easy math, you'd have to wait 90 days from that point.
So
Just wait a second.
I guess I'm okay with, Lisa?
Yeah.
If you can let me, if we can get it industrial with restrictions, I'd be okay with that. Yes. So I guess we can come back on the 18th, right? For a new session?
Right. Right.
And just to clarify, we are not guaranteeing you that's going to happen. All we're saying is we're going to defer it till the 18th.
Sure, it,
Just want to make sure.
That way
So
you don't lose your money. You don't lose your $456.
Yeah, we just don't want to set a scenario where you come back and say, well, no, you promised me I'd be able to do this on the 18th. No, we're just promising you'll be heard on the 18th based on what all the information is found. So,
and whether it gets approved, it doesn't matter to me. It's,
okay.
I'm not gonna get all upset if I don't get my way. It's no big deal. So,
Well, we appreciate your patience and we're just, like I said, trying to do what's best. So anything else you want to add? Okay. With all that, is there anybody here who'd like to talk against this project? Hearing none, and everybody did get a chance to read the protest letter? Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion to defer this item number 7 to January 18th.
Motion to defer.
Second. Okay. Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. DeFuria,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson, Commissioner Davidson.
Too bad Gretchen wasn't here to see us do a proper deferral. How many arguments we had about that? Okay, item number 8, discussion and possible action to approve/deny the revision of the Planning Commission filing fee schedule, building code inspection fees, and administrative fire review fee. Eric?
So let me give everybody a copy of this. So I sent this out with everything else, but I just want to make sure you have a paper copy in front of you. So just to go over what the changes would be, if you look at the first page there, those are all of our filing fees, how they currently stand. The only change under the filing fees would be the PUD, which is $425 plus $12 an acre. The way it stands today is it's $2 per acre. We are changing that. We think that was an error to begin with. So that's the only thing that's changing in those fees there. If you come down to the next section where it talks about our inspection fees, the next couple of pages that you see there, all of those inspection fees are currently $50, $55, something along that line. We're just increasing those by $5. So what you see as an example, footing, $55. That's what we're going to. So it's currently $50. So just subtract everything by $5, and that's what it currently sits at on those inspection fees. If you go to the third page at the very bottom where it talks about medical marijuana, it has changed significantly. As an example, under a grow facility, we currently charge $100. We are going to $1,000. And we are going up on all of those to where dispensaries 15, processing 2,000, research 2,000. So those have changed significantly from what they currently are now. The other thing that has changed, in August of 2022, the Board of County Commissioners decided that we are going to be the authority having jurisdiction when it comes to fire marshal. The county is the fire marshal as of that point in time. One of the things that we deal with a lot of time is, as an example, if there's a commercial permit that is submitted to us, we do not have the staff on hand to review those commercial plans. So they are sent to a third-party reviewer. We have 3 vendors that we choose from to review those plans. We don't get any fees for those reviews as it currently stands. Obviously, there's some coordination effort between us, the applicant, third-party reviewer. So we are adding a $55 fee, administrative fee for those reviews when it comes to fire. So that could be anything from a permit, like I mentioned, to annual live fire annual live fire safety inspection that we have to do on any commercial business that's open, as an example. That's something that we're taking on here shortly, that we never done before. So we have a third-party reviewer that actually goes out to the site itself to make sure they're doing everything they're supposed to do. Sure, they charge a fee that they're getting, but we are charging $55 for our time in regards to coordination, setting all that up. So that's what that fee is in regards there. Those are the only fees that we changed. That's what we are suggesting to the Board of County Commissioners, which is the next step. If you have any comments, suggestions, feel that this is too high, too low, that's what this process is for at this particular point in time.
The fire review is commercial only?
Yes, just commercial, any commercial industrial project. So that goes from, a commercial building, let's say it's simple as a Domino's Pizza, as an example. That can be that, it could be an office building. One thing that you reminded me that's not on here that we may want to discuss is the Deer Creek School is building a new school. So as it currently stands today, they are going to be charged not only our permit fee, which is 25 cents a square foot. So the permit that we are potentially getting, you're talking about a permit fee just that we collect in the neighborhood of $31,000. Now, that's just us getting the plans, setting up the permit. That's how it currently stands in our fee structure. So that's something that I haven't put it on here as of yet because it's something that's been kicked around. I'm glad you brought this to my attention, but
What'd they say about that?
well, we've had a conversation with them. So if we did not charge anything and we went through the third-party reviewer, which is what we're going to have to do, not only for review, for the inspections, because the state did all those inspections before. So they're doing everything from beginning to end. Their charge through the third-party reviewer is going to be in the neighborhood of $50,000. The way it currently stands, we would also tack on another $31,000 to where they would be at a total of about $80,000 to get through this whole process. Now,
They're
I
not
brought
gonna
that,
like that.
well, I brought that to their attention. I told them to contact Commissioner Davidson as that's beyond my pay grade. So that's something they're gonna have to figure out, but that's how it currently stands. Now, we can add some language to this to where educational facilities, as an example, we charge 5 cents a square foot. To where now your fee, instead of being $31,000, you're gonna be in the neighborhood of $7,000. So
But before the switch, how much were they paying? When the state-
nothing. Beforehand, before we had the duty of being the state fire marshal, all they would do is supply us a copy of the plans and they went on about their way. We would never see them again. We never charged them anything because the state fire marshal handled everything from beginning to end. Now that we've taken over that duty, this is the first structure school-wise that has come under this particular.
And the state didn't charge them?
Oh, yes, the state charged them.
Okay, so they
Sure.
were paying a fee
Oh,
before.
yes.
We don't know
Yes.
what that fee was, but it's not like suddenly they have a fee because you're doing it. It's just transferred. Instead of them paying the state fire marshal, they're now paying you.
Right, that is correct. But what is different is if we continue with the current structure the way it is, let's just say the $50,000 as an example would be what they would pay through the state if we went the old way. Well, now that we're going this way, they're going to pay that. Plus, they're paying us $31,000 and we're essentially doing nothing besides administratively making sure that all this is done. So that's where we currently stand with the current fee structure.
Well, these school districts have deep pockets and,
Pass it on to the builder.
hey, listen,
It's
I
been
know
passed
a
on to
little
the
bit,
taxpayer.
I know a little
Right?
bit about school bonds, all right? And everybody's got their hands in the pie, okay? And and the taxpayer pays the bills, okay? Well, hey, they vote for it. If they vote for a bond issue, they get what they deserve. I mean, you know,
That's a good point.
they get what they deserve.
And the long and the short of it, if they were building a warehouse, they'd have to pay that fee. If it was a company building a warehouse, they'd have to pay that fee.
Absolutely. The only difference in that particular case is you're probably not gonna look at such a cost. I mean, it's, right, I mean, it really just depends on the square foot. It's hard because these facilities are so large. You're talking about 100 square foot at minimum. To where a warehouse, you're typically gonna be in the neighborhood of 5, maybe 10,000 square feet. So sure, you're absolutely right. This person who's doing a warehouse is gonna pay that 25 cents a square foot. Absolutely. That is true. But you're kind of comparing apples and oranges because of the size of the facility in this case. That's all.
How much are we gonna charge the county when they build the jail, if it's on county land?
Well, if it's an unincorporated Oklahoma County, that is true, 25 cents a square
So,
foot.
I mean, everybody else is paying it, why shouldn't school districts pay it?
That's an excellent question. That's why we brought this to you. I don't think he has a problem with it.
No,
but-
it was very simple. Eric talked to Mr. Perez,
Yes.
which is the superintendent of Deer Creek, and said, call me, and that was a month ago?
Probably a couple weeks ago, to be
Yeah.
fair.
I haven't heard from him.
But I mean, you're also,
And I mean, you're talking about a multi-million dollar, and when somebody comes in and tells the superintendent, hey, you're about to pay 81,000 in permits, he's probably, I've never seen how much I pay in permits. I couldn't tell you what I pay in permits. I will tell you that the total project is $23 million, and we're gonna have a great playground.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right.
And
So to
and
that, I mean, that permitting part of it doesn't bother me, and it's an interesting point about the county having to pay the county for a permit. We'll fight that battle later. So the part of this fee structure that I want to talk about is the medical marijuana business and the reinspection fee. I don't think we should be doing a reinspection fee. I know that they're required to be reinspected, and quite frankly, in my opinion, they could just pay the exact same fee over and over. These
so what that is so the initial fee that you see there is when they bring their application in. Typically, that's in the form of a certificate of compliance from
Okay.
Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority. So we get that paperwork. Our inspectors go out there. They inspect fire, life safety. They inspect the electrical, any mechanical, any plumbing that's in the building. Typically, if there's something failed, it's nothing significant. It's something that they can fix. So the inspection fee is to go out there and say, we flagged you for an electrical issue. So we're just coming back out there to make sure that electrical issue is fixed.
So when they're coming back every year for their, or what is it? So they are gonna pay, every time that they do their re-compliance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is
That's what I
correct.
was worried about. I didn't want them to get a $55 renewal versus.
No, that's
Okay.
just if they failed something and we
Thanks
have to
for the
go back there
clarification.
and re-inspect it. Yes,
Can we put an extra zero on there, Lisa?
if you would like. Again, that's above my pay
You're all
grade.
for the marijuana? I can't believe Vicky let you, oh.
So again, I mean, if there's some change that you would like to see in this case, as far as potentially raising what is currently here,
What's everybody else's rate on that?
it's all over the board.
What's the highest?
From what I've heard at this point, it's Pottawatomie County with $1,500. But I don't know what they do. They don't do anything.
The question with all these things here, do these cover your time and expenses to do that?
Well, if you want to real quick, you have our fees that we currently collect. So if you want to look at this month, you'll see on here. Now, this is just for this fiscal year. This isn't for the calendar year.
Right.
But you'll see that we're pretty much breaking even at this point. I mean, we're up $3,000, which is not very much. So yes, I would say the inspection fee is the most common fee that we charge people. Absolutely. Every time someone calls in something, there's an inspection associated with it. So raising the fee $5, sure, that's gonna help. How much? I couldn't tell you, just in the fact that if the economy goes bust next year and no one's building any houses or anything else, then raising fees doesn't matter. We're gonna be sitting there twiddling our thumbs because no one's bringing anything in. So it's all gonna be dependent on other factors that are beyond us.
Right, so based on the numbers we're seeing today, what you're recommending is gonna cover the cost of you guys doing business for these things,
Correct,
okay?
correct.
So, and obviously next year, if something screwy happens, you may have to raise the fee rates again if suddenly we're not losing money, but it's costing us more to do our job than what we're taking in.
Possibly,
In the
yes.
past, the budget board and BOCC have actually picked that up. And there's been more than 1 year that we've actually put money into that, so without raising fees. So,
Right.
This is the first time we've raised fees in,
Well, we've raised some fees even as recent as 2021 with the first page, our filing fees. We raised those in 2021. Now, the other fees, inspection fees and whatnot, the last time we raised that was in 2019.
I think it's 4 or 5 years.
So yes, it's been a little while. That was before COVID and everything. So yes, I mean, we haven't really caught on with everybody else as far as the inflation, but
Right.
this
so-
is where we are.
And you're feeling comfortable that, again, these rates that you're putting out there will help pretty much keep us right around even. We're not trying to be making $1 million, but we don't want to lose $1 million.
Sure. And medical marijuana seems to be the big question mark. So if we want to go higher, please tell me. I'm just staff. So if
I
you
mean,
want to
you're
go,
raising
if you
it
want to, if you want to
1,000%.
go higher, then
your choice of words today are frightening. One, you want to go higher on your medical marijuana.
Right.
And two, the taking of the fire permit that was imposed upon us by the legislature.
so I'm just pointing that out because at the end of the day, this board is a recommendation. It's going to go to the Board of County Commissioners. Obviously, Commissioner Davidson sits on that. But
Sometimes.
So,
if anything you want to change, now is the time to change it,
so
is my point.
basically, from our perspective, all we're doing is saying, yes, this looks really good. Send it on to the board.
That's
We're
right.
not approving these fees, and we're not they can change all that. We can make recommendations if
Sure.
we want to.
Absolutely.
But, so with that said, is there any other questions?
So we can make changes now, suggest changes?
Yeah, you can make, yeah, sure.
Okay, well, why don't you just do it 2,000 for grow facility, 2,000 for dispensary, 2,000 for processing, 2,000 for research, and
So you just 2,000 across the board.
2,000 across the board.
Okay.
Maybe do the reinspection 150 instead of 55.
Sure.
That's just a suggestion.
Sure. And we can make that suggestion, and if they so deem your suggestion, the direction they want to go, then they'll take that in consideration and we'll go that direction.
Any other suggested changes? Okay, so I'll actually make the motion. I'll make the motion that we send this on to the Board of County Commissioners with the recommended changes of changing the grow facility to 2,000, dispensary to 2,000, and reinspection fee to 150. Do I have a second? I'll second. Roll call?
Mr. Murray?
Sure.
Mr. Davidson?
No.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. DeFuria?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson? Commissioner Davidson?
Yes.
All right, so send it on. Item number 9, discussion and possible action to receive the October-November 2023 fee fund and expense report. I think we kind of killed that and you went over everything, right?
Right, so you can see we're pretty much at break even at this point.
Does anybody have any other questions? Hearing none, I make a recommend, or I'll entertain a motion to approve or to receive the fee fund report.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. DeVere,
Aye.
Ms. Patterson, Commissioner Davidson.
Yes. Item number 10, new business. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, section 311.9, new business is defined as any matter not known about or which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the time of posting of this agenda. Any new business heard?
No, sir.
With that said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. Roll call.
Mr. Murray, Mr. Davidson.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. DeFuria.
Yes.
Ms. Patterson, Commissioner Davidson.
We are adjourned. Merry Christmas.
How you too? I'll see you next month. Yes, sir.
You want to turn this off?
Merry Christmas.
All right, so what'd you do to my neighbor?
Push that right off.